Well, hello and welcome to the Tennis Podcast, where it is a chilly Friday morning here in the UK. Over in Rome, things are heating up, not literally. It has looked really quite cold there for the last couple of days, actually, particularly at 1 a.m, when a lot of the tennis seems to have been happening. Some of it engulfed in a thick cloud of smoke. It has been, all in all, David, quite an eventful few days.
Yeah, it has, hasn't it? It brings back memories of the bees in Indian Wells in terms of weird stoppages. And for a while I genuinely thought, geez, are they done for the night here? You know, because that looks like it's not going away. Hawkeye's not working. But anyway, they're getting through the tournament, but it has felt like a heck of a slog for some of them. And, you know, the organisers, I think, as well. But, you know, I've enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, moments of farce, but sort of quite enjoyable farce. In the words of Charlie Eccleshare, you've got to get your kicks where you can. And maybe that's a smoke delay in men's tennis at the moment. Matt Roberts is back, folks. Don't call it a comeback, call it a reset. How are you doing, Matt?
Very well, thank you. Per your discussion on that excellent pod with Charlie in my absence, definitely not going to leave you to become a professional golfer. We had some birdies, but we had some quadruple bogeys and everything in between. So I'm going to stick to podcasting. Don't worry.
Okay. Long may you remain average at golf, Matt.
Yeah.
Because
no matter how much I play, I remain average.
Okay. Great. Very pleased to hear that, but also that you had a good time. We have a Pamela Howard Shriver voice note on today's show that is coming up in just a little bit. We also have an awful lot to talk about. So the women's semi-finals took place yesterday, the men's semi-finals taking place today, the women's final tomorrow, the men's final Sunday, all very simple, in theory. See you at 2 a.m. when tennis is inexplicably still happening. Let's start with the women's and a final set up between Coco Gauff and Elina Svitolina. Svitolina having beaten the world numbers 2 and 3 on back-to-back nights in Rome. An amazing comeback against Elena Rybakina in the quarterfinals, then returning 24 hours later to beat Iga Swiatek last night, also in a 3-set thriller. Matt Roberts, Elina Svitolina in 2026 is no joke.
Yeah, one of my better takes, I think, that one. And honestly,
it'll get quoted in Vanity Fair soon.
No, they only take my bad ones. Honestly, this is unreal, isn't it? And David very much called this, I feel like, a week ago when you saw Svitolina play. You were like, wow, Svitolina is playing so well in Rome when she beat Hailey Baptiste. That was the match that really stood out when we really took notice of her form. And, you know, it was coming off that loss to Ana Bondar in Madrid that we weren't really sure what to make of it. We can now definitely say possibly just an Ana Bondar problem that Elina Svitolina has. And we always thought she was more of a Rome person anyway, given her success at this tournament in the past. But, you know, to pull off beating Rybakina and Swiatek, you know, Rybakina, who has been the best player this year on the tour, and Iga Swiatek, who was starting to look like the Iga Swiatek of a couple of years ago again, is an unbelievable feat. And the resilience she's shown in both matches is extraordinary, because she started slowly against Rybakina. She didn't really have it. I thought she was going to actually get wiped off the court in straight sets, but she battled back. And then I thought, wow, this scheduling's so unfair for her to have to come back the next day in a tournament where they've got 13 days to get this thing done. Why is this happening? And it's late at night, and she came out sharp against Iga Swiatek and had a lull in the second set where Swiatek was really good, but then battled through in that final set. And, you know, there's been a lot of times over the last few years where people have put out the comment, oh, Elina Svitolina, obviously a new player since she's come back from from maternity leave, but a better player. And I've actually sometimes wondered whether that's true. I've sort of wondered whether we've forgotten about how good Svitolina was before, winning the WTA finals, top 5 in the world, back-to-back semis at majors. These were great achievements, and she hadn't quite matched that kind of coming back, even though she'd been really impressive. But I think 2026 for me has been the confirmation that this is the best tennis Elina Svitolina has ever played in her career. And if you look at the results she's had, I'm no longer really thinking about the ceiling of her game. I'm thinking about how dangerous she is to the very best players in the world, and she's among them. She's beaten Rybakina this season, as she's just done this week. She's beaten Swiatek twice now this season. She's got a couple of wins over Gauff as well. She's beaten Bencic. Like the only real top player she's really faced and hasn't come close to beating was Sabalenka at the Australian Open, and yet Sabalenka's done that to so many players. That doesn't mark Svitolina out. I am so impressed, and I think what's got me the most is we talk about her newfound aggression, but I feel like she's managing to mix that in with the defence that she's always had now. And in particular there, I'm talking about like being aggressive from defensive positions. She's doing that on the run so well. It was particularly notable against Rybakina. The number of shots where she was on the defensive, but kind of able to hit an offensive shot on the run off either wing, forehand or backhand, blew me away. And I think it's been one of the most compelling couple of days of tennis, watching Svitolina do this to Rybakina and Swiatek back to back. I'm just full of admiration for it.
And you have to be so strong to do that, don't you? I think her strength is deceptive and underrated because she's not one of the most physically imposing looking players out there in terms of her stature. But to pull that off, those shots from the corners that she's doing, you have to have some serious body strength going on. David, you did call this, you did earmark Svitolina, and given that we've known all season, we've had her earmarked, for a few weeks and months now, Matt in particular, as being no joke in 2026. What did you see early in Rome in that Baptiste performance that made you think this is another level entirely, even from what we've been seeing so far this year?
Authority and decisiveness, I think. She had the answers. Baptiste was laughing. I think she was partly laughing at her own form because it wasn't what she wanted it to be. But even when she would play good points, Svitolina would have the answers. And it's the combination for me. It's the almost reinvention of Elina Svitolina as an attacking player, because I commentated on her in the years of BT Sport having the rights to the WTA Tour. She was always a significant figure in the latter stages of tournaments. I was always commentating on her matches, but she always felt like she's basically a counter-puncher with a great backhand, a great mover and a great backhand, but it's not imposing itself on you, it's reacting to you. Now she imposes herself. This new version of her is to go out and get people. And to see it come together, almost like a fusion of those two players, particularly in Rome, because she's won it twice before and her best stuff has come there. It just felt, wow, she looks right up there to me. The form I'm seeing right now, I'm just fascinated. I wanted to see her play against the players she's played against, Rybakina in particular, because I felt similarly about her, maybe not as convinced on the surface, because I think her better surfaces are others, but she feels like with Sabalenka, the preeminent player, maybe the player who's going to take over. So I wanted to see that. And then I wanted to see her against a rebounding Swiatek who's just beaten Jessica Pegula 6-1, 6-2. I wanted to see these clashes and how does Svitolina match up. And I kind of expected her to end up losing both matches as they're going along. I mean, she's a set down against Rybakina and a breakdown, and it's looking like, okay, well, we've seen a few times Svitolina play well in tournaments, and then she plays Rybakina or Sabalenka, and then it's, okay, this isn't the same thing now. She actually can't impact them because they're hurting her before she can get to them. And she found a way. I mean, in Rybakina, I think I'm curious to know about the drop off in her level, because I think she needs to be careful about how much she's got left. But it's like she gained a bit of traction, a bit of footing in the match, and then it was like she's off to the races. And it was kind of similar against Swiatek as well. I couldn't have more admiration for how she views herself now. It feels like she's changed how she views herself, and she no longer puts any limits on herself whatsoever, particularly in Rome. I'd love this to be carried through to Roland Garros and for her to be a real factor in that tournament in the way she is right here. But it's really enjoyable to watch it.
Do you see that? Do you think she can? Of course she can. Do you think she will?
I don't see why not. I mean, she doesn't look tired. She looks fresh. She looks. You mentioned her physical strength. She looks like a heck of an athlete, you know.
It's giving, peaking at the right time, isn't
yeah,
it? Whereas, that
see...
performance from Rybakina felt, oof. Are you running out of gas at the wrong time? I know she's got
almost might help Rybakina that she has a few extra days. There's a few players that have ended up losing earlier who I think actually that might do them good for Roland Garros' purposes.
I sort of feel like the Roland Garros picture, like the general overall picture on the men's side, has maybe got just slightly less interesting as this clay season has gone on, with
I'll say
obviously Carlos Alcaraz being out and
Matt,
people falling by the way. I mean, look, I think the Jannik
Sinner
of it
golf,
all.
he's not.
Genuinely,
like
I think the Jannik Sinner of it all is fascinating to me.
I agree. I find him fascinating, and
I'm still
the sheer volume of pressure. We'll come on to that,
right.
But come on, it is the Hunger Games out there on the men's side.
But I
the
feel
Hunger
like
Games
what's
was
happened
quite interesting, wasn't it? So that's not a good comparison.
But I feel like what's happened on the women's side is got more interesting. Like the narratives we thought we were going to be going into Roland Garros with have changed a little bit, and I think that's because of the losses that Sabalenka's had, that obviously you talked about on the last show, and now this defeat for Rybakina, the rediscovery of some really good form for Coco Gauff, plus this with Svitolina, little signs from Iga Swiatek. Like, it just feels like we've got that group again, and you could really make a case for lots of players to potentially win the French Open. And I totally think Elina Svitolina is in that mix. Like, it will be tough, because I think she's going to have to go through these players if she wants to win it. And, she's already had to beat two of them and she's not won this tournament yet, and that is such a challenge. But she just seems, I think peaking at the right time is a really good way of putting it. She just seems primed and ready right now. And I think what I love is that I feel like, and David, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like a lot of people in that time when you were commentating on her for BT Sport would admire Svitolina, but not necessarily enjoy the game all that much. And I feel like I feel like what's happened since she's come back from maternity leave is that people have really started enjoying her play, and they've imprinted that on, she's better than ever. I think those two things have slightly sort of merged, but I think now you can genuinely say I'm enjoying her more and she's better than ever, and it's a brilliant thing. And that was all, she beat Iga Swiatek without really a serve for half of the match. She was really struggling with double faults at the start, and then she lost her serve again as it went on in the second set, but she stayed so calm. And I really loved the communication she was doing with Andrew Bettles, her coach, that he was
really
helping her
stuff, wasn't it?
He was helping her stay positive on that, and she did serve better as the match went on, and that was a really nice adjustment that she made too.
And she was also breaking the Swiatek serve at will, wasn't she, for long periods? Okay, not in that second set where Swiatek found a gear, but then was totally unable to sustain it in quite an alarming way. Our agenda, written before last night's match, had originally said, is Swiatek back? She'd thrashed Naomi Osaka, she'd thrashed Jessica Pegula. It was that, the look in her eye was back again. Authority, David, like you said about Elina Svitolina. I was pretty convinced, really, in the possibility of her being back. And I look, it's only one match, and we've just been talking about how brilliant Svitolina is and how she'd beaten Rybakina the night before, and she could potentially do this to anyone. But as ever with sort of Iga Swiatek over the last 12 months, it was the manner of the defeat that I found pretty alarming. The drop-off in the third set, the panic, the overhitting, the inability to get the train back on the tracks once it had left those tracks. It was alarming, quite frankly. And I go from 0 to 100 and back to 0 again with Swiatek, and probably the answer is, somewhere in the middle, as always. But where, David, do you stand on Swiatek's backness?
I feel she is partially back. I'm not sure that's very helpful, but I agree with you that having seen her against Osaka and Pegula, I was all in, really, pretty much. This reminded me of the player she used to be on clay, just taking it to people. She was 2 games all with Osaka, and Osaka has just been coming off a great win herself, and Osaka's hitting good ground strokes down the middle of the court, deep onto the baseline, and Swiatek's just taking a step either side and hitting it for a winner. And I'm thinking, well, how have you found that angle? That angle doesn't exist for anybody else. And then she took it to Pegula, 6-1, 6-2. Pegula's a bloody good player, and she's gone and done that to her. But that's what she used to do to people in French Open finals. Coco Gauff, Jasmine Paolini. These were the non-events that we were getting. People forget just how dominant she was. When people say she hasn't had a drop-off, I'm sorry, on clay it is very clear that there's a difference between the player that was winning 4 of these titles and the player that is a bit in and out and losing some matches on clay and losing like a 6-love set to Coco Gauff last year. But definitely this week I thought, wow, this reset of a different coach and a different attitude. What I actually liked as well, the other reason I feel she's partially back is because during the Svitolina match, she looked, even when it wasn't all going her own way, she looked like she was enjoying it to me. Like the 1-set-all and early stages of the third, she was getting involved in rallies. She'd win some, she'd lose some, but she seemed to have a bit of a smile on her face and seemed to be enjoying the way she was going about her business, as if, this is how I used to do it. This feels right. This is the muscle memory. And then you get that, to use your word, alarming derailment of the game, where some deep forehands cross-court from Svitolina were responded to with a forehand attempt down the line from Swiatek, and it happened time and time again, and she just either hit it a bit late, but it ended up certainly in the tram lines, that slightly inside-out forehand. She couldn't control that shot. And then she started to miss pretty emphatic backhands cross-court way into the tram lines, and you think she's lost control of the ball, and it's part of it's the pressure that's coming her way because she's having to do more. She can't just roll over this player because Svitolina is so bloody good. But overall, I think she should take heart that the tennis is in there, the form is in there. It's just she's going to have to find a way not to have these tailspins. I don't quite know what happens, but I mean, we've seen them in the past, don't forget, in Grand Slams, particularly at Wimbledon, where she would start overhitting, and maybe there's still a bit of that, oh my god, my opponent's playing really well, I've got to hit it even harder, and she's trying to get used to that. But I saw some nice coming into the net volleys, generally more, she feels more secure. Maybe it's because she was trying to go for a little too much, not exactly sure.
But then I guess the counter to that would be, David, the tennis has always been in there. Like, it's always been a mental thing.
Yeah, I think she was scrambled the last year and a half about what she was trying to do and the things she was trying to add. I said it when she finished with win for set. I sort of thought, well, why not just go back to what you were doing? You won God knows how many Grand Slams doing it. I don't really understand why we've done this reinvention.
I bet Winfrey saw those lovely serve and volleys, David, and thought, oh, you can do it, can you? Doing it now.
But I think maybe because she's doing it without consciously thinking,
Yeah.
I've got to do all these things that I've been working on. I realise the serve's a big factor and all that sort of stuff too. But to me, she looks a little more settled. Like she's just back to her DNA in a way.
I agree. She did until she didn't. And that is, therein lies the problem. I still feel like that, the train can come off the tracks and I do not trust her to get it back on. Finding solutions is an essential part of being a champion tennis player, right?
Yeah, it feels, it's a different case because there's different things going on, but it's a little bit reminiscent to me of where we were last year with Osaka going into the US Open, where she played really well through Canada and looked really good, and then it sort of quite dramatically and suddenly went wrong in the final. And then going into the US Open, you're sort of weighing up, well, on the one hand, I've seen a lot of really good from Naomi Osaka there, but there's this fundamental sort of deep-rooted issue that has reared its head in a big moment. How do I interpret all that information I've got and make a prediction for Osaka going in to the US Open? And look, in the end, she had a really good run there and played really well and got to the semis. And I don't think she lost at that tournament necessarily because of the sort of issues that we saw in Montreal. I think she was beaten in the semis by Anisimova playing really well and on that late night there. So I feel better about Iga Swiatek's Roland Garros chances than I did before this tournament, I would say. And that is
I feel the same.
Kind of all you can really ask for, I think. Like I think I agree with you, David. Like people are not emphasizing enough just how different this Iga Swiatek is to the one from a few years ago. It's not like you can just click your fingers and get it back. It has to be a work in progress. And I therefore see this tournament as a good step. And I did think she was playing with a lot more margin on the ball, and she did look more secure, and she looked like she was enjoying her tennis again and enjoying the process. I completely agree with all of that. But she's not back, and that final set against Svitolina has shown it. That doesn't mean she can't win Roland Garros, but it absolutely means that she is in a pool of players who can win it rather than it's her against the field like it was for a few years at that tournament. That's kind of how I see it. It almost feels like she's probably the only one who could do with another tournament before Roland Garros. I feel like I feel like most people are like, "Oh, just get me to Paris. I'm falling apart." I feel like Swiatek, because of what happened in Madrid, where she got ill and she didn't really get much of a tournament there. I feel like she almost just needs another one. The other little point to make is that I don't think she lost against Svitolina because it was night session, but I definitely think Swiatek is in that category of player who looks more effective on the clay when the sun is beating down and it's a bit hotter, and the topspin forehand can have more effect. The good news is that she almost certainly won't play night session at Roland Garros, so we don't have to worry about that.
And she will get asked about the egregious sexism of women not playing at night, and she'll say, well, I don't want to play at night, so it's fine. And another little piece of me will die. Can't wait. Really pumped for Roland Garros. I mean, I am, but that specific, inevitable and actually, part of Roland Garros, I'm not.
Speaking of weather forecast, I had a little look at the weather app yesterday for our first 3 days in Paris.
Oh, it is sweet.
Looking good, guys. Yeah, like mid-20s sun.
It's the universe is definitely validated the big order of new shorts and sandals.
Good. I was doing football training in 13 degrees yesterday and thunderstorms every 4 minutes.
Get thee to Paris and some egregious sexism. Let's talk about Coco Gauff. The roller coaster that is Coco Gauff. Matt, you've listened to our last pod that you weren't on, where I quoted you from our WhatsApp group. I quoted Matt Roberts twice, much like Vanity Fair. I said, I'm always thinking when I'm watching Coco Gauff of your words. Coco Gauff is never as high as you think and never as low as you think. But then we're all watching her match against Solana Sierra, and we are worried by what we're seeing from Coco Gauff. And Matt Roberts, of all people, the Coco Gauff is never as high as you think and never as low as you think guy, comes through in the group chat and says, this is a level of behaviour and attitude and worry on a tennis court from Coco Gauff that I don't think I've ever seen before. Like, she might be lower than we think, basically, is how I read that. And we had a big discussion about that on the show with Charlie on Sunday, and it was all very interesting. And I think, you know, there were some good takes in there. And I quipped at the end of it, well, she'll probably be in the final next weekend. Here she is in the final.
Unbelievable, isn't she?
She is.
She
is unbelievable. And yeah, it was a joke. She'll probably be in the final, but also, I don't know. Coco Gauff, discuss.
So awesome. And it's so different to Svitolina's route through, you know, where I know she's come back and so forth, but her form has always been there. Goff's been wrestling with it, and it's certainly, you know, it hasn't been all the talking points I don't feel like we've had in the past of serve and forehand and those sort of things, but she's had struggles every match pretty much, and she's had to come through them, and she does time and time again. And I don't know, I just think we're looking at one of the great competitors of the sports scene in many ways, because of how she just deals with the chips being down and maybe feeling a bit rubbish off the court, and she's still there, she's still coming through.
And I think maybe what raised the red flags in that Solana Sierra performance was the fact that she didn't look like she was enjoying the battle. That was what felt different, how little fun she looked like she was having, how much it looked like she didn't want to be out there, quite frankly. We're really not used to that from Coco Gauff. We're used to seeing her in a struggle and a battle, but there looks like a part of her that is going, this is right where I want to be. Thank goodness I'm not playing my best tennis, because then I wouldn't be in this awesome, gritty battle. I mean, it really didn't look like that against Sierra, and she gave those quotes afterwards explaining what a difficult time she's having off the court. And maybe there was a bit of catharsis in her putting those words out there into the world. I don't know, because since then, Matt, she's continued to be involved in epic battles. I mean, I loved her match against Mirra Andreeva. I mean, it was a bit of a hot mess, but I just loved it. I found it so compelling. And she looked
That's
like
why you loved it, Catherine.
Right, yeah.
Not
yeah.
There's no but there. That is why you loved it. Hot mess.
Oh, I've been outed. Yeah, and she looked like she was loving it as much as I was. Again.
Yeah, and I only saw the closing stages of that match, and like the Andreeva comeback in that third set was really compelling. It felt like a slightly false 5-1 lead to me that Gauff had, because it had been close, and Andreeva was finding ways through and really competing well as well. I think it was a kind of positive week for her as well, and to make that comeback and almost level it up at 5-5, but just it was classic Gauff in that final game. Just like the number of times she asks you to beat her is just different to everyone else, especially on this surface. I love watching her on clay because it really emphasises the movement and the athleticism that she has. And yeah, look, she's had these slow starts, hasn't she? Apart from Castella, I think she'd lost the first set in 3 straight matches, and that is something that I think she will want to improve. But I've been impressed with the serve, actually. Like it's now 15 matches in a row where the double fault percentage has been below that 10% mark, which was the mark that she was constantly above, and it was a real problem. I'm not really thinking about it quite so much anymore. You know, I think there are still some battles going on with the forehand, but again, the clay I think generally can help her there. And yeah, talk about peaking at the right time. Like Gauff has never won a major without some form going into it. Like even last year she reached those back-to-back finals in Madrid and Rome, and that set her up for Roland Garros. And the time she won the US Open, she had a great summer on the hard courts going into it. She needs form, Gauff, I think, going into a major, and she's got it. Okay, she's not playing her absolute best tennis, I don't think, but she's playing really well and well enough, and feels like she can keep building. And yeah, it's some turnaround from where the game was a few months ago and where it seemed like her head was just a week ago. It's pretty remarkable.
She trails in the head-to-head with Elina Svitolina. It's 3-2 in Svitolina's favour, but she's won both the matches that they've played this year, the Australian Open and Dubai. What do we think ahead of this final? Who is the favourite? Who is the sort of objective favourite, and who is your favourite, I guess, are the two questions.
I think on paper, Gauff would be the favourite because of her record of big titles, her name, but I feel Svitolina is the favourite. I think she is playing the better tennis of the two, really, in terms of like the top end of her own game. And I do feel like her game is a problem for Gauff. I feel that she can move with her and she can hurt on both wings. The serve is probably the one where Gauff is going to need to really capitalise, I think, by taking that on and trying to get in charge. And obviously Gauff fights so incredibly well. She may eke it out. That I could absolutely see as well. I mean, how many times do you think, oh, the opponent's playing better than Gauff and Gauff wins? But I don't think Svitolina is going to have that sort of dip. So I favour her.
Matt?
Yeah, I think I'm leaning Svitolina as well, based on the form they've both been in this week. When it doesn't feel like there's much between them, I'm trying to just think what could be the decisive factor. And it feels like at the moment Svitolina is playing closer to her top level. And I agree with David about the way Svitolina can hurt Gauff, and she can also, you would put both of these at the top in terms of resilience. Like so many times Gauff wins scraps, but remember Dubai, that's one of the matches of the year. Gauff won a 15-13 second set tiebreak. I feel like I think it was. That would have broken most players, not winning the match and that tiebreak there and then. Svitolina just kept going and kept bringing it in that final set, and I think it's hard to sort of break Svitolina in the way that Gauff can other players with her sheer resilience. So I guess my pick would be Svitolina in 3. But if like my other pick would be Gauff in 3. I think I feel like it's going 3.
A scrap
is
the safe prediction here, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I think
a
so.
hot mess, maybe. Yes, please. I don't think it will be a hot mess. I think it will be a scrap, but not a hot mess. There is a difference.
I think
Gauff's
we're going to need
generally
you
got
to
a good
come up with a
finals
proper
record.
definition of that.
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
I mean, she wasn't great in the Rome final last year. Paolini sort of really did take her apart. But generally, I trust Gauff in finals. I would say that. But then I think Svitolina's got a good record as well. Like there's really not much to choose. I would lean Svitolina.
8 years since our last Rome final. Svitolina, incredible stuff. And I feel like we should also give a mention to Sorana Castella, who Coco Gauff beat in her semi-final. 36 years of age on this retirement tour. She's now 21 in the live rankings, which matches her career high from 2013. And that is extraordinary. She's done the predictable thing, guys. Well, actually, no. She said when she was mid-run, she said, if I win the Rome title, then I might reconsider my retirement. But I think that is putting on the table the mere possibility that the retirement could be revoked. So let's continue to watch that space, can we? I mean, obviously...
I thought she was joking when she said
you?
it.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw the interview on Court, I think.
It's her career. She can do what she likes. I'm just saying I've seen this film before.
Yeah, no, I was talking about it yesterday. How it's similar to the interim football manager of whom Albion have had recently, who performs amazingly for the rest of the season. But do you give them the job full time? And then you don't have the deadline. And it becomes problematic because suddenly you don't have this deadline.
It's a different job, isn't it?
Yeah, totally different job.
I hope Castella I hope she does whatever she wants, but I mean, I kind of feel like it'd be quite cool to just stop having just played the best tennis of your life. Right, see you then.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that is our thoughts on the women's tournament so far, and a look ahead to the final between Elina Svitolina and Coco Gauff. Let's get the thoughts on all of that and the men's and a whole lot more besides from your friend of mine who has been in Rome. She's no longer in Rome. She's now pampering herself in Italy. Go Pam. But she's been in Rome doing good work for Yonex and scouting players for us. She was on the practice court filming Greg Rusedski and Giovanni Pesci-Pericard. Go Pam. Here is your friend of mine, Pamela Howard-Shriver, reporting on the sights and sounds of Rome. So we'll see you on the other side of Pam to talk about the men's tournament.
Hey everybody, I'm coming to you from a Jam Shriver reset at a spa by a lake in Italy. I went to Foro Italico and worked as a coach this year. It was a place I had been to as a player over 30 years ago. It's amazing to be back. One of the most iconic tennis venues on the planet. A lot of it was the same, but so much had changed. I spent a lot of time watching and supporting players who played on the new arena, the BNP Paribas Arena, which is about the same distance as maybe court 15 all the way towards downtown at Melbourne Park, going all the way to John Cain Arena. I mean, it is probably maybe even a longer walk, but it was a beautiful new arena in an amazing setting where the Olympics, it's the old Olympic site from the early 60s. I actually was in the coaching box for a Yonex player who does not currently have a primary coach, and was in the coaching box on the main court. Campo Central, how do they say it? I won't say it correctly. And that was kind of interesting to be in the coaching box there. I wasn't really expecting it. And I will say playing conditions, to me, I saw a lot of aggressive tennis being rewarded. I mean, obviously, look what Sinner continues to do with his aggression. I saw some big power tennis in the matches I watched on the women's game. So while, of course, the conditions are a little slower than Madrid, you can see like today's clay court game is still, like they're hitting it hard. Rallies are quite entertaining. I do think Foro Italico may need to think about in the coming decade extending the back of the court. I saw Casper Ruud practicing, and in the practice courts, there's just not enough room for especially the men players to return serve where they want to return serve. So the field of play is changing. It's almost like golf courses have gotten longer. Well, the back court between the baseline and the back fence, it has to be redesigned. And that was something I really noticed at Foro Italico. Not enough room at the back of the court. And even the sides, sometimes players their movement is so much better than 30, 40, 50 years ago, and they play differently. They play much more the back of the court and, of course, moving forward quickly. Anyway, enough about that. I do want to make a quick mention on some players complained about white seats in some of the new stadiums at Foro Italico, and also there was a big white signage for a sponsor low down, like at the back wall, And white is the total enemy of a tennis player. When you're trying to play, and you see white, especially if it's electronically lit. I watched Ben Shelton lose his match, and he played during dusk. And I was sitting behind the court, and I was like, I can totally understand. He could not see the ball come out. So I feel like overall, tournaments need to really respect what players need in order to see the ball in a way that makes them feel comfortable and confident that they're, able to, if you can't see the ball, you can't play at your best. So I think it's, I'm going to transition from this word respect the players, what the players need with playing conditions, also respect what they should have as a percentage of the prize money. That's a conversation that's been going on now since the beginning of this tournament. I think Sinner really brought up that word respect, and obviously he's such a huge leader in the game today because he's a dominant number one on the men's side. You show respect to players by percentage of the prize money. It's nowhere near what it is for sporting entities, certainly in my home country, USA. Again, showing respect by having good playing conditions. I think having the same tennis ball on segments of the tour so that players aren't, risking arm injury because the balls feel different with each tournament leading into a major. Scheduling shows respect. Having athletes play at 2 a.m. in the morning and then expect them to recover, that is not showing respect. Obviously, we're coming up on the 1 anniversary of my rant at last year's Roland Garros with you all about tournament director Amélie Mauresmo and how French Federation schedules the women. They get them out of the way. It feels like by 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and then it's prime time men on all courts, including night matches through the years. But, overall, showing respect to the athlete and the athlete's voice. It's trying to get more organized. It's trying to get more unified. I've seen it many other times in my 47 years. And obviously before I started to play in the late 70s, it was, there was a lot of, there was the boycott at Wimbledon. There was the women seeking equal prize money at the U.S. Open. There was a lot going on. So let's see what happens. I think it's going to be interesting. On the court, obviously I got to just give a shout out to a guy I nicknamed the piece of work a couple of years ago at a 1:30 a.m. U.S. Open interview on Ash. Medvedev, I saw him have a practice match with Fonseca before the tournament started, and he is just unbelievable to watch, whether it's practice or a match. He's locked in, though, at times. When he was finishing off Landaluce, it was so interesting to see him. He could have closed that match out a little sooner, but he stayed so locked in. So, I find Sinner Medvedev, while Sinner goes in the big favorite, I think it's such an interesting match. I look forward to that. But women's final, Coco Gauff, I watched her suffer through an early round. I think it was her first match, Solana Sierra, on that new court. And she really struggled. She needed a double fault at the end from Solana Sierra to lock up the match. And she was carrying so much anxiety during that match and looked like she was just, hating to be out there. And then the next thing you know, she is in the finals, and she's gotten better each round. I haven't really watched her play a whole lot, but Svitolina is fascinating. I mean, she's playing by far her best tennis of her career post having her baby. And Andrew Bettles, her coach, and I, I've known Andrew for a long time, and we had a few moments. We chatted, like after she beat Haley Baptiste in the middle of the tournament easily, like 2-1, and how much she just followed the game plan to perfection. I just feel like Svitolina is an example of such a mature athlete in the prime of her physical and emotional and mental state. So it's kind of contrasting styles. Coco, we never know how she's going to be emotionally right now. We know she'll keep competing, but how much? So I think it's going to be a good final. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm mostly also looking forward to seeing you all next week. I know this is a long voice note, so feel free to chop away as you want.
AI was supposed to take over the parts of the job that you hate. Turns out it made your job even harder. Instead of doing the work, it gave you homework. ServiceNow's AI specialists get work done. From start to finish, cases get resolved, loops get closed, no extra work for you. With ServiceNow, you can do the parts of the job you're best at and delegate the rest. To put AI to work for people, visit servicenow.com. Welcome back to part 2 of today's tennis podcast, turning our attention to the men's tournament now in Rome, where the semi-finals are being played today as we come to you Friday morning. They may already have been played, one or both of them, by the time that you're listening to this. Luciano Darderi having the week of his life at his home tournament against Casper Ruud, and Jannik Sinner against Daniil Medvedev. Jannik Sinner, the first player in history to reach 32 consecutive Masters 1000 wins. He did that with victory over Andrei Rublev. Rublev deserves, a mini trophy, becoming the first man this week to break the Jannik Sinner serve. I feel like that should get you the runner-up prize in men's tennis at the moment. But yeah, I mean, what can you say about Jannik Sinner? He's brilliant. He was clutching at his leg towards the end of that match, which was, I found that very worrying, just because of the landscape of men's tennis at the moment. We've lost Lorenzo Musetti this week. He is out of Roland Garros. We have had the good news that Arthur Fils does seem to at least be fit, and the injury that we were talking about for him on Sunday's show doesn't seem to be what he and we were all worried it might be. So that's a bit of good news. But we've had Rafael Jodar be injured this week. Like, wrap these guys in cotton wool, and Jannik Sinner included. I was worried. I am worried. But David, you're not falling for a bit of clutching. A bit of Jannik Sinner clutching doesn't worry David Law.
We've seen a lot of it, haven't we? Really, I mean, it's. I get it. I mean, we've seen Andy Murray do it. We've seen Novak Djokovic do it. Now we're seeing Jannik Sinner do it. It's the sort of, my leg hurts. And it does hurt. So why not let people know that it hurts? Because it does. And some people don't do that. Some people just don't make a sign, anything to give you an idea that something's hurting. I mean, I think he gets cramp. I think who knows? Maybe his body will start to tire out. I mean, it's not surprising if he's feeling a bit tired now. And I think he does need to be a little bit careful for sure. But his matches are not massively taxing because he's so efficient and so bloody good. He's so much better than everybody he's playing that matches aren't lasting very long. He's ordeal free in his route through these draws. So I just think I think the bigger problem is, whereas you said Swiatek could probably do with another tournament next week, and I agree with that, Jannik Sinner could probably do with another week off. He could probably do with 1 week of just not being in Paris and not being in Rome, but being maybe with Pam on the spa weekend she's having. That's something I'd quite like to have a bit of an insight into as a conversation. But no, I think Sinner is right where he needs to be. I'm not concerned. I mean, I don't have any medical or inside information to be sure of that, but my sense is that he's just fine and will be okay, but he is knackered. And I'm not surprised. He's been on, and this is the problem with these back-to-back 2-week Masters. You're on for a month. And everybody looks a bit fed up. And
it's not just the tennis, is it? I mean, he told us that he used Madrid to recharge. But Rome, the demands on him in Rome, I mean, everywhere, he's the world number 1. But the demands on him in Rome in terms of sponsors and, fans who'll be stopping to sign every single autograph.
Yeah.
He's good. He's good like that.
The crowd's waiting for him.
Absolutely. He's on the whole time. And that's just... Well,
it's a bit like Gauff in New York, it's just, you can see that it's just weighing a little bit on, certainly on her over there, and he's much quieter about it, or he never makes you, he never references that, but in fact he always says he loves it, and I think he does, but it is a lot, and I think he compartmentalises probably as well as anybody I've seen in years.
Yeah. I read those closing stages as fatigue rather than injury yesterday against Rublev, and it kind of affected his serve. I think that was why Rublev managed to break his serve. Just on that number of 32 wins, I just wanted to say this, that like he's overtaken two of Djokovic's streaks there. Djokovic had a 30 match win streak at Masters 1000s, and that was in 2015, and he had a 31 win streak, and that was in 2011. And if you had to ask, like, what was the best version of Novak Djokovic, I think a lot of people would say 2011, and a lot of people would say 2015. Those are like historic great Djokovic years, and Sinner is putting up numbers that it was better than that right now. And he's also overtaken Federer's streak of 29, and that was in 2005, 2006. That was Federer's peak, I think a lot of people would say as well. So I just feel like that's a number where if he can add some majors to it, like which we expect him to do, if he can add 2, maybe even 3 majors this season, this is going to be going down as like an all-time great ATP season, given this consistency that he's on. And it might go down as his best ever season if he adds those majors. But I feel like we're in the middle of something really historic, which is hard to recognize when you are in it. But just, I think the comparison there with Djokovic and Federer helps you realize just how good that is. And it was kind of remarkable that 2 matches I watched back to back were the Darderi Jodar really late one night, and it was like fun, but it was a hot mess, Catherine. It was a total hot mess. And then like the next match I watched was Jannik Sinner against Andrei Rublev, and it was just a total opposite. It was just like total efficiency and competence from the start, and it was like, that's it. That's the difference with him and the rest of men's tennis right now. The rest of men's tennis might be really fun and interesting and a good match in isolation, but the difference in performance level from everyone else to Sinner is just staggering right now. You think, oh, maybe that wasn't a brilliant Jannik Sinner set, and then they flash up the stats at the end, and okay, well, we'll take the performance rating with a pinch of salt, but you think, okay, maybe that wasn't brilliant, and he's just dropped an 8.9 on that scale. And you think, oh, actually, like, the numbers tell you that was really quite good. It just wasn't perfection, and that's what everyone else is having to sort of live with right now.
He's going to try and drag him into a hot mess, though. Daniil Medvedev. That's the play, isn't it? I mean, that's kind of always the play, whether he wants it to be or not for Medvedev, isn't it? Make it a hot mess. But it's definitely the play for him against Jannik Sinner. Nothing if not compelling, Daniil Medvedev on a clay court. Thriller last night against Martin Landaluce, 1-6, 6-4, 7-5. It's been a weird tournament, hasn't it, for Medvedev? Got a bye in the first round. How is this sort of a bit of a quirk that he's reached the semi-final here, or is he? I don't know. Is he showing some form on clay? I mean, the last time he was showing some form on clay, won Rome and lost round 1 of Roland Garros, didn't he? So even if he is showing some form, could mean nothing. But is he showing some form, David, or is this a slightly quirky little Medvedev run?
I think he's showing some form. I mean, I think everything is relative, and I'm comparing him to losing 6-love in Madrid, where he wasn't showing any form. But then I also think back to, he's been fascinating this year. I mean, he's always kind of fascinating, but he's been fascinating in a positive way overall to me. Even though he lost Love and Love, even though he got destroyed by Lernertian in Australia, he then played incredible tennis for 2 or 3 weeks in the Middle East, and then going into Indian Wells, where he lost out on 2 tie breaks in the final to Sinner. And honestly, going into that final, I thought Medvedev was going to win that. The level he was playing, it was kind of like Svitolina here in Rome. I don't think Medvedev's playing like that, but I'm not sure he can because of clay. he wasn't very good in Miami. It's really interesting that you think, oh, he's cracked it. This is Medvedev back, a bit like we're talking about Swiatek, and then he throws in a duffer of a week. But I do think he's playing well. I mean, wow, he had to deal with a lot from Landaluce last night. I mean, the first set being 6-1, and Landaluce, in Medvedev's player words, saying, like, if he played like that every set for the rest of the year, he'd be in there with Sinner and Alcaraz. And I mean, I know what he means. You know, Landaluce, I think he's a really exciting talent, and he walks about the place. I was trying to think, who does he remind me of? What's this walk and this look that he's got? And it reminds me of early Boris Becker. He just has this strut and this gait and this sort of like love in it, and as if no limits on himself. And I love watching Landaluce. But Medvedev's the guy who ended up winning, you know, and he hit an incredible sort of the vintage Medvedev backhand around the net post from being put in the hedge, you know, by a kick serve, and he goes over the net post or round that, and then into the postage stamp in the corner. I think he's playing well. I think there are limitations to what he can do on clay, because the ball doesn't really react in the way that it might elsewhere. But I often think of him and Sinner as just one of the more fascinating rivalries because of how dominant Medvedev was and how dominant Sinner has become. Medvedev should hopefully take some heart from what he knows he's capable of doing against Sinner. So I wouldn't write that one out. You know, I think this is a different category. If Sinner is a little frayed around the edges, which I think he probably is mentally, and who wouldn't be, just like because of fatigue, Medvedev could be the guy to draw that out and as you, in your words, hot mess it up.
Yeah, definitely. Italian representation in the other semi-final as well. Let's talk about Luciano Darderi. There are so many good Italian men. It's quite hard to sort of make yourself stand out from the pack, isn't it? Like, it's really easy to sort of look at a Grand Slam draw or look at, you know, a result at a Grand Slam and go, oh, there's another Italian. I'm always making the gag, aren't they? Like, oh, another Italian man's come out of the woodwork. Who on earth is this one? So sort of to mark yourself out, particularly at a home tournament, you know, the biggest tour event in Italy, if you don't count the ATP finals, is incredibly good going, I think, from anyone, and he's done it in memorable style as Luciano Darderi. I mean, obviously because of the smoke delay in his match against Rafael Jodar. I will come to you on that, Pat Roberts. Weird stuff happening in tennis with comical graphics involved, I feel like, is your mastermind subject. But I feel like we should probably start before that with his victory over Alexander Zverev in the match before, saving 4 match points, then went on to win the decider 6-love. You know, a brilliant performance from Darderi, who stood up to Zverev and said, "Okay, if your play is to wait for me to miss, I'm not gonna, mate. I'm up to this," and played with a good amount of variety as well. Like, it was just a really smart performance, I thought, from Darderi. Zverev's take on that match was that it's the worst court I have played on in my life. Juniors, pros, futures, practice. I have match point, the ball jumps over my head. I have break point, the ball rolls. Anyway, the wind was also strong. Overall, I still think I should have won the match in 2 sets. After that, yes, he played wonderfully. Graceful as ever from Zverev there. Also posted a chippy reply to the Tennis Channel on Instagram, on one of their social videos, complaining about how little he was featured in the final edit. It's not giving contender at Roland Garros, is it? I mean, obviously just totally graceless and making himself look an idiot. But in terms of, you know, the insight he's giving us into his state of mind, David, like, he's clearly a mess, isn't he, Alexander Zverev? Like,
I mean, I think he's another one who needs a rest. This is the problem. I think he's a bit tired. And you don't want to be tired going into Grand Slam. So actually, I think in a way, losing earlier in Rome might end up helping him. Get over to Paris, enjoy this glorious weather you're promising us, and just relaxing a bit. I mean, he's not... he works bloody hard, doesn't he? But I think he probably needs some time. The problem is, I'm not sure he's 100% fit either. There are these question marks over his back. His service speed is a bit off, but I feel like Darderi was just tactically superb in this match. He took, in his own way, he took the Sinner blueprint and kept Zverev off balance. I mean, at the start it was a disaster. I mean, in terms of what he was doing, he looked exhausted. Darderi didn't feel good. I think he was a bit freaked out by suddenly the scores going the wrong way, and he was really heavily down. But then he's setting 5-3 down. I mean, he's about to lose this match. So Zverev, he's right. He should have won the match in 2 sets. He's right, but he didn't. He didn't serve it out, and I think that's a real concern if you're Zverev, that you're this big guy with this big serve and you don't serve it out. That's kind of his bread and butter. But credit to Darderi for getting back into it and then just keeping him off balance. Kept on just throwing in a slice, and then when Zverev would lurch forward to get it back and rally it deep, then Darderi would pull the trigger with a really hard, fast, deep one, and you could see that Zverev's just like, whoa, where's that come from? And then he doesn't really give you much in response, and then Darderi just takes over. This was happening time and time again. He volleys well. He's not afraid to go to the net and so forth. So, yeah, I think Darderi's been a real revelation this week. I suspect that this will probably hurt his chances in Roland Garros in a way, because I think he's going to be on such a high and he's going to have a bit of a crash. We'll see. But Zverev, I don't think it's terrible. I mean, look, until this one, he'd only been losing to Jannik Sinner. He'd been beating everybody else. And it's best of 5 at Roland Garros. It's bad. He checked out. I think he checked out a bit mentally. I think he's a bit gone. Like, he's just knackered. And he was like, I can't scrap anymore. It was a bit of that, I think. I don't think that will impact Roland Garros for him. I think he's got enough time because he's lost earlier. He's got a week and a half to freshen himself up, get into 5-set mentality. Trying to put that guy away over 5 sets is bloody difficult. And he still has to remind himself, Alcaraz ain't here. I'm the other guy in the half of the draw. He should still be reaching the final of Roland Garros. He should still, given everything that's going on. No Musetti. Feast question marks injury-wise. Djokovic barely played. He's the guy. He's supposed to get there.
At Roland Garros.
Yeah, he'll be playing on a proper court.
But honestly, don't any more excuses. Just shut up with your excuses, mate.
I just think those, I know it's doing the rounds on. I think he's deleted it now, that comment on the Tennis Channel video, but I think it's pretty revealing of how, it's a study in the fragile male ego, isn't it? Like he's tired.
Do you think that's revealing about what tennis he's going to produce, though? Don't you think he's always just like that?
I think I do. But the fact that he's actually posting, I think he probably thinks that 100% of the time. But the fact that he's actually posting it is a bit revealing about where he's at. Yeah, I mean, okay, it might just be that he's knackered, making bad choices, and he'll be fine in a week. But I think his ego and confidence is at a low ebb. And I agree, David, it takes a lot to expose that in best of 5 tennis. Like, not many players are able to expose that and sort of stand up to him enough to do it over best of 5, but it's clearly there to be exposed, and I don't think he can miraculously solve that in a week. Is how I feel.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't make the final of Roland Garros, given the likely competition in his half of the draw.
Yeah, I mean that's probably true. Yeah.
And yet, David, post-Orangerie, you will say, oh, that guy in the second round could be tricky.
Yep, you're absolutely right. You've read me like a book.
Let's talk about Casper Ruud.
Hang on,
He's somebody who could be
hang on.
No,
the smoke.
hang on.
We've got to
my
talk about the smoke.
Sorry. I got distracted by the Orangerie. Take it away, Matt. Off you go.
Well, we've had another smoke delay.
I mean, it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. Like, I think the Coppa Italia final, like the sort of Italian version of the FA Cup, always clashes with Rome, doesn't it? And it's played in the Olympic Stadium, which is right next door. And after that, they let off fireworks, and the smoke from those fireworks drifted over to the tennis in Rome and just sat there and hung in the air for so long. I mean, it was a 20-minute delay where they had to stop the match because it was so thick that it meant that the electronic line cooling wasn't working, and they had no backup, so they had to stop. I think the players frankly couldn't see the ball anyway. Tim Henman on Sky was saying that he was at one end of the stadium, and if he looked to the other side of the stadium, he couldn't make out people's faces or anything like that.
I was once present at a Champions Tour event that was played entirely in those conditions in Chengdu. So, suck it up, lads, is what I was thinking at 1 o'clock in the morning.
and that was the extra element. Of course, it was happening ridiculously late because there'd been a brilliant women's match on first, and I mean it was just comical. Like, I sort of loved it because it was funny, but it was also frankly ridiculous. And this match ended at gone 2 a.m. As they went into a third set, you're thinking, right, okay, it's gone 1 in the morning. Let's see how this set goes. Maybe it'll be quick. And like the second game of the deciding set was a 26-point game, taking over 10 minutes. It was like, of course. And look, I was actually kind of impressed with both players. Jodar was a set and a breakdown, got it back. He saved match points in that second set, won the second set. I thought he showed real composure and resilience in that second set. He did lose it physically, and I think this is a little trend we've seen from Jodar through this season. Like, a lot of the times he's losing matches is physically. His tennis is right there; it's good enough, but he hasn't got it in the legs yet. And Darderi, like, to recover from losing that second set, his tactic in the third seemed to be coffee. He seemed to just kept getting coffee deliveries at like 1:30 in the morning.
Sounds like Catherine.
Yeah, it was like, have you got to record a podcast after this? Like, yeah, it's like so funny. Like, a wild match, one that we will remember. It was also extra late because after that women's match, they had a music break.
Oh, God.
And shout out Laura Robson on Sky. She was absolutely losing her mind at this. She was the only one.
I think that was the most farcical thing that happened in the Foro Italico that night.
It was.
It was not the smoke delay.
Laura was the only one who was appropriately annoyed about it. She was like, what are we doing? Like, we've got another match to get on. Of course, it's probably going to be like 2.5, 3 hours. That means it's going to finish at 2 in the morning. Then there was a smoke delay. I mean, just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And like the bigger point, less related to the smoke, but yesterday, that Swiatek Svitolina match, that is your headline match of the tournament, pretty much up to this point. Semi-final, 2 great players, and the way you've scheduled it, the deciding set is happening after midnight, and the stadium's half empty, and there's just absolutely no reason for that in an event like this where you've got so much time to play all these matches. I feel like they've tried to elevate the 1000s by elongating them. I don't think it has had that effect, but they've tried, and what they've ended up doing is just totally undermining their own tournament by scheduling key matches late at night when half the stadium's gone home. I mean, it's just so like tin pot.
And when the conditions are crap. Like the you know,
Yeah.
it was so
Play
cold.
in the day.
The fact that they were playing as well as they were in those conditions, both of them, to be honest, was amazing, because that was a hospital pass of a set of circumstances.
Yeah.
And also the inequity of, you know, Swiatek had so much more recovery time for that semi-final than Svitolina, who'd played late the night before against Rybakina. Like, you've got 13 days to play with. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, repeatable rant. Casper Ruud. He's in the semi-finals. Beat Karen Khachanov in a weird match. Khachanov having been responsible for the Dino Soaring group chat being so shortly lived under that name. Karen Khachanov sort of a test that you have to pass, isn't he? And Dino Prismic did not pass that test. So Dino Soaring is on the back burner for now. There's a sort of, we've got a Jodar thing going on, which I don't know if that's going to last. Number 3 is up for grabs, and the group chat name is up for grabs. So put that
I wouldn't mind a
memo out
Landaluce
to men's tennis.
flavour.
Yeah, you've got to come up with a pun, though, David.
I hate puns. I might have a word with Hannah. She'll come up with something for me.
David, a few words on Casper Ruud. Give him some flowers.
Well, having just said Alexander Zverev should be reaching the Roland Garros final, if you put Casper Ruud in his half, I would.
He's doing it already. We haven't even got to the orangery.
Yeah. I believe in Casper Ruud in that matchup on clay. I do, and I hope he stays fit. You know, because he pulled up lame a few weeks ago. I think against Auger-Aliassime, but he definitely looks like he's got his mojo back a little bit on clay. Like, I know he won Madrid last year, but the rest of it wasn't quite what I was anticipating. I feel like it's coming for him. You know, he's moving really well. I think he had that really chastening loss to Sinner, didn't he, at Rome last year, where he won a game or something, you know, and he was just, oh my word. And of course, look, he could end up playing Sinner and having another experience like that. But I think he's playing better right now. So let's see what I'm saying on Sunday night. But no, I'm encouraged. Because you're right. I mean, look, that was a horrible match, interrupted by a 3-hour rain delay against Khachanov, and all the sets. It was like watching I mentioned it was like watching an Ostapenko-Yastremska match in terms of the scoreline, sort of 6-love, 1-6, 6-2. But no, I think Ruud's coming on.
Just to confirm what we've touched upon a couple of times already, Artur Fils has confirmed that he is in for Roland Garros, said he was being uber cautious with that retirement earlier on in the tournament, but scans revealed there's nothing sinister at play, and he's now going to wrap himself in cotton wool and bubble wrap until his first match at Roland Garros. Not so for Lorenzo Musetti. Absolutely heartbreaking stuff for him. He's out of Roland Garros with a rectus femoris injury. Matt Futterman in The Athletic reports for us that the rectus femoris is a muscle on the inner part of the thigh, one of the 4 quadricep muscles. It's the only quadricep muscle that crosses both the hip and the knee, making it nearly impossible to function athletically without it.
Sounds a bit of a blow, doesn't it?
It sounds pretty crap, yeah. I mean, the fact that he even took to the court for his match against Casper Ruud is mad. I mean, he said in his statement, he all but said, like, I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't Italy and Rome, and I respect that, bless him. But also, I hope he hasn't done himself further damage by even giving that match a go. Yeah, it's terrible for men's tennis. It's terrible for Musetti. It's gutting. He's making a bit of a play for cursed player is Lorenzo Musetti. I wonder if he regrets the Nightmare Tour a little bit. I wonder if there's a sort of cumulative toll of the Nightmare Tour.
Has he been hanging around with Berrettini too much?
Yeah. Tough.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I think you're right, Catherine. You probably could draw a line between the Night Med Tour and what's happened to him this season in terms of how hard he pushed it. But I think you can also look at the injuries he's had over the last 18 months or so, and it's always the leg. It's always the upper leg. He's obviously got a bit of a weak spot there. Monte Carlo last year in the final, it was the leg. Roland Garros last year in the semis, the leg. Australian Open this year, now Rome this year. Like, there's obviously something there that he needs to find a solution for, because it's holding him back in big moments, you know.
Musetti's withdrawal from Roland Garros does mean that Stan Wawrinka sneaks into the main draw as a direct entry with his ranking and doesn't need a wild card, freeing up a wild card for another lowly ranked French tennis player. Okay, that is it for part 2. We'll be back in part 3 with some pretty interesting news to discuss. Welcome back to part 3 of today's tennis podcast, where we now have to talk about the bombshell news that Andy Murray is to coach Jack Draper for the grass court season. Also in tandem with the news that Jack Draper is no longer working with Jamie Delgado. Obviously, Delgado himself, a former coach of Andy Murray. Tough for Jamie Delgado, because he never really kind of got a run at that job, did he? Because Jack Draper's pretty much been injured for the duration of their partnership. I mean, this news indicates that Jack Draper is going to be fit to return on grass, which is good news. And there's going to be the added intrigue of Andy Murray being there in his coaching box, which, I mean, even if it is just the novelty factor, I don't mind. I'm here for it. I'm into it. I'm pumped. And Andy Murray's got maybe something to prove as a tennis coach, you know, after, you know, it didn't go badly with Novak Djokovic, but, you know, I think if he was marking himself out of 10, and he's done a few interviews about it now, including with us, like, I think he thinks that could have gone better, doesn't he? Like, I'm really, really into this, David. You're
Interesting.
Are you not?
Well, I want to see Jack Draper be a tennis player again before I get interested in anything, really. And that's the problem. Is everything you say I agree with. I am excited by the prospects as well. And I'm interested, you know, having had interviews with the two of them a month apart at the end of last year. I mean, it's fantastic for us to get this insight into them both, and to see the struggles of Jack Draper, and to see the desperation to succeed, and I remember him saying to us, next grass court season I'm going to slide. You know, I'm going to do. You know, I'm not going to do what I've been doing, and I'm going to figure it out and be a better player on grass. So I'm really into that. I'm really into Andy Murray, the coach, because, I mean, he did say he probably wouldn't be a coach again until his kids were older. But obviously, I get that this is different. You know, if this is just a short spell and it's in Britain, it's easy for him to do it, and it's not going to mess his life up. You know, and it's Jack Draper, and they've got that whole relationship, and they've got the singing Proclaimers whilst drunk, and Andy Murray's middle finger, and in the car.
Only one of them was drunk.
Okay, yes, you're right. Yeah, Andy Murray was being perfectly respectable and above board and completely sober, and taking the piss out of Jack Draper while he sang, and it was great. It was all the fun things. I just think, well, where's? Sorry, Jack, but where's the evidence that you can play tennis anytime soon? I know you just said that this is confirmation that he's back for the grass court season. Is it? I mean, how do we know he's going to be fit? I mean, I know there's no guarantees of anything.
I assume you wouldn't make an announcement like this that you know is going to cause this kind of stir. Unless... No,
I understand. I mean, like today he might be fit. But there's been so many breakdowns of his fitness. I really hope that's not the case. And... you know, I love Jack. I think he's such a good guy, and really want it to happen for him. But I just have, I kind of not, I'm not that into it, because I don't think of Jack at the moment as somebody who's playing tennis. He's pulled out of the clay court season. and he's got it all to prove as to whether he's going to be able to play on the grass. It's not that long away. I hope he can.
Matt?
Yeah, I mean, my first thought was, at least Jack Draper won't make Andy Murray go on a run, I suspect, right at the start of their coaching relationship. I feel like it's going to be a sort of easier way in for Andy Murray into this gig.
Than a minion coming and requesting your presence on a long distance run through Monte Carlo.
Yeah, cramping after a few minutes. I thought Draper would sort of pull the Murray lever at some point in his career. I'd really thought that would happen. It would make sense given we know their relationship and we know how much Murray is into the idea of coaching. I just didn't think it would be now. And I do think it makes sense to have Murray on board in terms of Draper as a player and his career and what he's trying to achieve through that grass court season, because, we've seen Draper, particularly at Wimbledon, he's done well at Queen's, particularly at Wimbledon, I think deal with a lot of nerves and a lot of pressure of being British number one, and he's never really looked comfortable at Wimbledon.
The sort of expectation of, look at you, you're a tall guy, big serving lefty. Obviously, this game should be working on grass. This is where you should be peaking. And I think, David, it was you asked him about that in our interview. And he really responded to that and was like, "Yeah, I'm actually, as you were saying, Matt, I'm actually not that comfortable on grass. In very rudimentary ways, my game should make sense, but in sort of more nuanced ways, it doesn't actually make all that much sense for him."
So, I mean, and Murray knows the pressures of Wimbledon and being the guy, better than anyone who's ever lived, probably, and I think can help manage that. But I do sort of just think at this stage, it almost puts the pressure back on, I think Draper was kind of going into this Wimbledon probably pretty expectation free, because he's not played that much. Everyone understands that. That's something people recognise. But now, with Andy Murray in his box and without having played that much, I feel like there is going to be a lot of spotlight and attention on it. And I'm with David. I just don't know whether he's ready physically for the tennis that's coming. And almost, I hope it's not. But is it like a little bit of a panic to pull the Andy Murray lever now and try and get some good news? Just be like. I need something, I need a kick. And I totally understand if that's how he's feeling and what he thinks he needs. But I don't know, I thought that he would do this when he's, knocking on the door of trying to win Wimbledon. And Andy Murray was trying to help him get over the line. That's not to say he can't go back to Andy Murray later in his career and it can't be a long-term thing.
I could imagine this being just sort of an annual thing, that Andy Murray helps him out.
Maybe it will
Wimbledon.
Be. Yeah. Maybe it will be. I hope so. I think that'd be great. And then I would change my perspective on it a little bit.
I mean, maybe this isn't a good comparison because this, results-wise hasn't gone well, but almost a bit of a Paulini Irani situation where it was like, well, you're helping me anyway. Let's formalise it, Because I can imagine, they would be texting a lot during Wimbledon anyway. I don't know.
Yeah. Look, I think it makes a lot of sense. It's just, is this the time, given Draper's, not really a sort of active player all that often at the moment. But I hope you're right, Catherine. I hope this is a sign that he is feeling better, and the decision to pull out of the clay is very much one that's targeted for the grass and trying to be fully fit for that, rather than, I just cannot play at the moment kind of thing. What we're hearing is that the knee is recovering, and Laura Robson on Sky said the other day that he is hitting, full on at the National Tennis Centre right now. So hopefully that's a good sign.
Okay. I feel a bit disconcerted because I'm not used to being the most optimistic.
Fun this, isn't it?
On the podcast, I don't know where to go
It's good being Catherine, isn't it?
No, I feel weird. I feel it's irksome. Shall we go to... In fact, it's the only place to go because it's the last agenda item. Carlos Alcaraz and his Vanity Fair piece, his cover shoot, the first kind of sports special for Vanity Fair worldwide. Like, just in principle, a huge deal for tennis to have this kind of cut through and exposure in the mainstream and in the sort of places that a piece and a photo shoot like this will be seen, has been seen, and a real sort of indicator of Carlos Alcaraz's status in the sporting world and in the wider world. Matt Roberts is quoted in the piece, as you might have gathered over the course of this show. It was a very distinct style choice with the photo shoot. I think it was done in Miami. We know this because Carlos Alcaraz posted a photo of what we now know is the photo shoot during a March-April photo dump, and then deleted the photo from the photo dump, obviously because it was kind of a spoiler for what was to come. But yeah, it's him dressed all in white and dusted up in clay, because obviously they were expecting him to be playing on clay, about to be defending his Roland Garros title at the time of the drop of this interview. So that's just a really unfortunate turn of events for Vanity Fair and for the style choice of this photo shoot. What, Matt Roberts, did we think when the photos and the interview dropped, other than, oh, that's a Matt Roberts quote?
Yeah, I was alerted to that by Itamar. He sent me a screenshot that said "Mr. Vanity Fair," and but like the photo, I was away in Devon, poor signal. The photo wouldn't load. I was like, what is this? Anyway, that was my experience of it. I don't know. I feel like I had a very different take to you, Catherine. You didn't like the photos, I don't think. I did. I thought it was a great
we're back to normal
concept. I thought it was a great concept.
I liked
well
the concept.
Executed.
Interesting. See, I've got no problem with the homoeroticism of it all. I find that fantastic. There's been lots of pearl clutching about it, and that is absolutely not the angle of my my issues with it. I don't think it was executed brilliantly. I think he looks really childish in the cover shot, the smile, and then the one where he's sort of posing on the ground looking over the shoulder. So that's the one where he should be doing the cheeky smile. I just think you can see in his eyes that he doesn't look quite comfortable. But the internet seems to have enjoyed it, so I'm obviously wrong. Vicky said that in the cover shoot he looks like a child in PE kit, and that's how I felt as well. I thought the one in the one in the suit is the one that should have been the cover shot, personally. David, very
I have no opinion.
Your views.
I've no opinion. I've just not even really taken any of this in. The only bit I was interested in was Matt Roberts' quote.
I feel like no one else read the piece. They just looked at the pictures.
David's the one.
I just sort of let this conversation. I knew it was going on in the group chat, and I just thought I'm just going to let this roll. I'm not really bothered. I don't think I've even really looked at all the pictures. I saw the one, but I just want him to start playing tennis
one?
again. The one where he's covered in clay and in his white kit.
All of them.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, he's wearing white shorts and white top.
The PE kit one. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen that one.
Yeah.
I don't care. Sorry. Just.
Anyway, it's good for tennis, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's good for tennis.
It's great.
It's great profile, isn't it?
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, we are back on Sunday night with our post-Rome live show, 8 p.m. UK time, will be on YouTube. The live chat will be going. If you want to join us, that will be up as a podcast as usual as well. It is our 1500th show on Sunday.
Whoa!
Really try and remember that during the actual show. So,
if you don't, we've told everybody now, so it's fine.
Exactly. Did you see what I did there? That was my insurance policy, because I just.
Then we can remind them in 1501.
Yes, thank you. So that's our next show on Sunday, and then on Wednesday of next week we are headed to Paris, and
Hello.
I can't wait. We have a mascot for this show. I'm going to try and get through this because it's such a lovely picture. This is Clara. Clara is owned by Steph, and Steph says, is our beloved 3-year-old rescue and 3-peat mascot. She says there's no point in guessing her breeds because she's a mix of all dogs. And I'm looking at a picture here of her being hugged so tightly by a little girl whose identity I don't know, but it's making me think of my niece Nina and Billie Jean. And Billie Jean is going to go and stay with Nina and family for the duration of my time at Roland Garros. And there is nothing I love more than Nina, Billie Jean content.
Best buds.
Yeah. So toddler plus dog hugging content. Yes, please. And yeah, Clara's gazing at the camera in that sort of doleful way. It's all just lovely. And there's nothing better than a repeat mascot. We love returning mascots. So thank you so much, Steph and Clara. What a good girl. The bestest of girls. Hello to our mascots. Hello, Bodie. Hello to Maisie. David's aiming to be top of the table come the end of Roland Garros. Maisie, all you need is for Artifice to win the title, and I'm sure it'll happen. Hello to Roger. Haven't had any Roger photos in a while, have we, Matt?
Roger can't fit any photos.
Definitely
Carey.
Request some Roger photos.
Paging Carey. Hello to our top folks and executive producers, Greg, Chris and Jeff. Matt's back, so are shout-outs.
That's right. We have Alec Mills from Bristol.
Hello, Alec.
Hello, Alec.
Alec says, I've been to all 4 Grand Slams at least twice.
Oof.
Very impressive from Alec.
Whoa.
And he's also visited the Masters events in Madrid and Rome. So a very fitting time for Alec's shout-out.
Alec's a clay court guy, by the sounds of things. Wow.
Alec Mills, you say?
Yes.
Like Alan Mills, the former
Alan
Wimbledon
Mills.
referee. The late
Very
Alan
good.
Mills, who was such a wonderful contributor to this show once upon a time when we did our end-of-season awards. And Wimbledon referee, and he was bloody great at it.
Yeah. Alec, thank you. Keep. I mean, how many times can you go to all the slams? Keep going. Let us know what you get to. Love that.
We also have Marty Betton, short for Martha, Marty says, from Philadelphia.
Hello, Marty. Matt's been to Philadelphia.
Marty.
I have been to Philadelphia. Yeah, one of the many places I've seen Fulham beat Brentford. And
like Marta
Marty
Kostyuk?
says, well, Vicky has looked at this shout out and says Marty's given us a very long list of Martys, but has not included Marta Kostyuk, which is the one that Vicky would have gone for. She says.
Oh, thanks, Vicky.
What about Marty Mulligan?
That's a very good one. That's come up a lot in my Pietrangeli research.
Excellent.
Australian player in the 60s.
Good name, that, isn't it, Marty Mulligan?
Yeah, reached the Wimbledon final in 1962.
Wow. And is that on Marty's list?
Yes.
Is he on Marty's? Okay. So that's
Exactly.
acceptable.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thanks, Marty.
And finally, we have a birthday shout out for Emmy from Barry.
Hey!
Like Barry Island?
Like Gavin and Stacey, Barry?
Yeah. Or is there there's a Barry in Ireland
Like-
as well, isn't there?
No, hang on. No. The shout out is for Emmy from a person called Barry.
And I've even read this email.
So like Barry Cowan.
Right. What do we know about what do we know about Emmy and Barry?
So Emmy and Barry live in San Diego and met during COVID. And since then, they've gone to Indian Wells together every year. And they were also at the US Open for Serena Williams' final match. Oh. And Barry says, tennis has been a big part of our relationship, and discovering your podcast this past year, listening to it regularly together, and both of us becoming friends of the tennis podcast has become the latest evolution of our tennis bond. I couldn't let Emmy's birthday, which was on Thursday, the 14th of May, pass without a shout out. Emmy is the ultimate Renaissance woman. She's lived such a rich, varied, and full life, and it continues to be a joy to connect with her, Barry says.
And now we've butchered their shout out. They're from San Diego. They've never even heard of Barry Island or Gavin and Stacey. They're like, what
Maybe
are
they're
they
into
on
Gavin
about?
and Stacey. You can get it overseas, apparently.
Maybe it will introduce them to Gavin and
Maybe.
Stacey.
Oh.
Yeah.
Barry, I'm sorry. Emmy.
Sorry, it's my fault.
And I don't think we're going to be able to think of any tennis Emmys, are we? I think that's... David's taking that as a challenge, Emmy.
Well,
Closest I've got is Emile Rusevori, but that's not
what
right.
about Roy Emerson, who used to be known as Emo? Can that be?
Yeah, we'll take it. I'm afraid
Not
we're going to
bad.
have to take that. Emmy, I hope you had a wonderful
I've not excelled
birthday.
myself.
None of us have. Emmy, I hope you had an absolutely wonderful birthday. It sounds like you've got a good in there with Barry.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Love that. Love that for you two. Yeah, I've loved this show. A bit of a bumper one. We'll be back on Sunday with our live post-Rome show, 8 p.m. UK time on YouTube if you fancy joining us live. If not, then you can watch that anytime or listen to us anytime, wherever you get your podcast. But you know that because you're listening to us right now. Thank you for listening. We are part of the Athletic Podcast Network, and we'll speak to you on Sunday.